Still hear that voice?
Experiencing terrifying convulsions. One time, her body became extremely rigid and her eyes turned white. During these episodes, she would foam at the mouth.
Most people are afraid of the paranormal because it's a topic that we really don't understand. I don't understand it. I don't even know if I should be afraid of it. Is it real? There have been so many stories from around the world that involve exorcisms, demonic possessions, or even real life haunted houses. So let's take a look at the top 10 scary paranormal stories that will give you nightmares after watching this video. And I'm sorry if you guys do. You might want to start sleeping with the lights on. I know after researching this video for you guys, I'm pretty afraid. I'm going out to Walmart buying a night laters. How's it going, YouTube? I'm your host for this one, Landon Do Not Sing, and welcome back to another most amazing top 10 video. If you guys like scary videos, then make sure you guys hit the subscribe button and also check out our sister channel right over here, Top 5 Scary Videos. It's part of the Most Amazing family, and the channel is doing amazing things. Starting things off, in at number 10, The Exorcism of Annalise. If you thought exorcisms only exist in horror movies, you are sadly mistaken. This is a true story about a girl named Annalise who was exorcised 67 times over a 9-month period because her relatives believed that she was possessed by 6 demons. But from a young age, it was clear that she was struggling with a mental illness, so instead of addressing this issue, she was placed on several medications to mask her strange behaviors. But the medication wasn't working, so that's when her family reached out to several priests to perform exorcism on her. At one point, she began hearing voices, eating insects and coal, and she would even lick her own secretions off of the floor. I mean, what the heck? During the exorcism, the priest chained Annalise, and they lasted for about an hour. But ultimately, Annalise died from malnourishment and dehydration because she was being starved to death while the exorcisms were performed. This is so tragic, and it's not even clear if she was possessed by a demon or not. What do you guys think? I don't know if I believe in this stuff, because if I do believe in it, I know it's scary, and I don't want to be scared. So I'm gonna pretend like the scary stuff doesn't exist. Well, whether she was really possessed or not, she was suffering from a mental illness that wasn't being properly treated. Death caused by a Ouija board flies onto this list at number 9. There are so many cautionary tales and horror stories from people inviting demons into their homes or being possessed by an evil spirit after they have played with their own Ouija board. But one teenager from Spain didn't listen to all of the warnings. One day she performed a seance at school with her Ouija board. The ritual was stopped by one of her teachers, but a group of students said they saw a strange smoke going up through her mouth and nose. Over the next 6 months, she started suffering from seizures and hallucinations, and she started to act really violent.
Experiencing terrifying convulsions. One time, her body became extremely rigid and her eyes turned white. During these episodes, she would foam at the mouth.
But one day she was found dead in her room, and the cause of her death is a complete mystery. So I'm warning you guys, never ever play around with the Ouija board, because you never know what will happen to you, especially if you don't know how to close out the board properly. I mean, my wife takes that stuff pretty seriously. Moving into number 8, we have a real life poltergeist. A poltergeist is a supernatural force that is capable of causing physical objects to move, or they can cause loud noises. You might have seen Steven Spielberg's movie called Poltergeist. It's about a family who is tormented by an evil spirit who takes one of the daughters into another realm. Okay, I'll be the first to admit that this movie was pretty damn scary. But did you guys know that this movie is actually based on true events that happened at a house in Long Island, New York? Well, in 1958, the Hermans were being tortured by an evil poltergeist who would cause bottle lids to pop, ornaments to fly around the house, it would tip over heavy objects, and it even caused a Virgin Mary statue to fly across the room and hit a mirror that was 12 feet away. The family called a priest who performed several rituals, but none of them worked. They decided to move far away and never return to the house. Yeah, good idea. If I saw something flying around my house, I wouldn't stick around to see what happens next. I would be gone. The Amityville horror scares us in at number 7. The Amityville house actually exists in a small town of Amityville in Long Island. Back in November 1974, the Defio family lived there, and they appeared to be a normal, loving family until tragedy struck the house. At 3:15 in the morning, the father murdered his entire family while they were sleeping because he heard voices in the home telling him to murder them with a rifle. After the murders, the house was empty for about a year until a new family moved in for a cheap price. But the Lutz family only lasted 28 days in the new home because some scary stuff went down.
The sickening scent of old perfume, recurring black stains on the bathroom fixtures, and an infestation of flies in the dead of winter.
The family claimed that they saw slime coming out of the walls, knives being thrown, and a red-eyed creature staring at them. Is this real life right now? I'm hoping it's not. I wouldn't even last 28 minutes, let alone 28 days. I would get out of there and not even look back. The husband even said that he saw his wife levitating from their bed, and he was woken up at exactly 3:15 in the morning each morning. I'd be on the phone with my realtor ASAP and tell him that I'm staying at an Airbnb until my wife stops levitating and this creepy house is sold. Checking into number 6 is the Stanley Hotel. This is a resort that is in the state of Colorado. Apparently the Stanley Hotel is haunted by evil spirits, and it has inspired the classic horror movie The Shining. People have said that they've even seen ghost children playing on the 4th floor hallway, and a cowboy who is hanged for murder can be seen lurking in the room 428. But out of all of the rooms at this resort, the scariest and creepiest place to stay in is room 217. This room is the home to a dead maid who spends her time tidying up this room that she's imprisoned in. Guests who have stayed here have reported that they felt mysterious sensations at night, and sometimes are punched in the ribs if they're messy. Would you guys stay in this hotel? What if you were paid like 10,000 bucks? I think I would stay in the Super 8 just down the street. The real life haunting in Connecticut brings us to number 5. Within 3 hours of a family moving into their new home, one of the teenagers said, "Mom, this house is evil. We need to leave here right away." Yeah, that's not something you even want to hear. But despite her son's advice, the mother decided to live in that house, and that decision will haunt her for the rest of her life. While the family was living there, they began to experience an evil force that took different forms and would constantly slap, grope, threaten, or even scare the hell out of them. I mean, what is this thing doing groping? The young son saw a man with long black hair who would threaten him or just stand there and stare. The family called a priest who was able to perform a 3-hour exorcism in order to get rid of all these evil forces inside of the house. The house is still standing in Southington, Connecticut, and the current owner who lives there has not reported any supernatural or scary paranormal occurrences. Haunting us in at number 4 is a demonic possession. Clara Germana Sally was said to have been possessed by a demon when she was 16 years old. She was heavily influenced by satanic worshippers, and she decided to make a vow to Satan. That's when she mysteriously became possessed. Clara started to understand and speak in languages that she never studied before. She knew everyone's deepest and darkest secrets, and she couldn't stand to be around objects that were blessed. She was also seen levitating up to 5 feet in the air, and she had extraordinary strength. Some nuns reported that she flung them across the room and even tried to choke them to death. A priest was called to perform an exorcism which lasted up to 2 days. At the end of the exorcism, it was said that the demon was forced out of the girl and she was healed. Well, I hope she learned her lesson and stopped making more deals with the devil. The Enfield haunting brings us to number 3. Let's go back to 1977, where the Hodgson family started seeing and hearing unusual things. The youngest daughter, Janet, says that she remembers waking up in the middle of the night and seeing her dresser slide across the room. As time went on, the family heard creepy knocking sounds from all over the house, but the family initially thought that it was just the drifters hiding out in their home, so they called the police to investigate. But the officer got a lot more than they bargained for. He reported seeing a chair rise up and move on its its own. Toys began to fly across the room, the sounds of dogs barking would be heard in empty rooms, and lights would flicker. Then one day, the iron fireplace was ripped out of the wall, and after that, a bunch of paranormal investigators came to examine the house. Ed and Lorraine Warren believed that there was a demonic presence in the house. But 2 years after the haunting began, they suddenly stopped, and the family said that nothing was done to stop them. Up next, in at number 2, we have Robert the Doll. He is notoriously known as the world's most haunted doll. Even just looking at him, you feel uneasy, and he just looks terrifying. Here's what we know about this creepy doll. He's over 100 years old, and he lives in a museum in Key West, Florida. And yeah, note to self, never visit this museum in Key West, Florida. Anyways, this disturbing doll was previously owned by Robert Eugene Otto, who received it back in 1906 from a family servant who practiced black magic, and he wanted to harm the Otto family. Robert's parents claimed that they heard their son talking with the doll, and neighbors even saw the doll moving from one room to another when no one was home. I mean, just imagine that. That is creepy. But first of all, why are the neighbors peeping into your windows? Maybe they're the creepy ones. Maybe they're the ones moving this doll, and then forgetting that they moved it, and they're like, holy crap, the thing is moving. After Robert died, a family moved into the Otto home, and their young daughter began to see the doll in her room at night, trying to kill her. Yeah, that's when you take the doll to the backyard, get some lighter fluid, gas it, light it up, and that's that. If that wasn't enough, Robert the Doll was also known to cause car accidents, broken bones, divorces, and other bad things. Robert the Doll sounds like bad news. Robert the Doll should be renamed to Robert the Doll who we gassed, lit on fire, cut up into pieces, and buried it around the city. Topping this list, in at number 1, is the true story of The Conjuring. When The Conjuring was released back in 2013, it had a lot of positive reviews because it was a very realistic portrayal of the demonic haunting that happened to an innocent family in Rhode Island. So in 1971, the Perron family moved into a farmhouse, but they began to notice strange things happening. Items around the house started to go missing, and they heard strange scratching sounds when no one else was home. The young girl started to see spirits around the house, and for the most part, they were harmless, but there were a few angry spirits. That spirit is known as Bathsheba, and the family believed that this evil spirit was the one tormenting them. They called Ed and Lorraine Warren to help them get rid of this evil demon, but during a seance, the spirits possessed the mother's body, and she started speaking in tongue and levitating off of the ground. The father kicked Ed and Lorraine out of the house and stayed there for 10 years because they couldn't afford to move out. If that were to happen to me, I would literally sleep in a tent in a church because there would be no way I would continue to live there. I would probably get kicked out of the church, but I'd at least try. Well, there you guys have it. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I'll see you guys all in the next most amazing top 10 video.